the backwoods.
Born in the backwoods.
Raised by a bear.
Raised by a bear.
Got cast iron nuts.
Got cast iron nuts.
And 2 coats of hair.
And 2 coats of hair.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Got a stainless steel dick.
Yeah, it's a mean prick.
Yeah, mean prick.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
I'm a mean motherfucker.
Who don't take no shit.
I don't take no shit.
Hey everybody, it's Joe with the ODT Veteran Podcast. I'm here today with these fine veterans. Obviously, we've moved up in the world, and it's no longer my small little studio in my house. But originally, the plan was to get a group of people left-leaning, group of people right-leaning, and kind of have a good dialogue on political spectrums and what people are feeling from a veteran's perspective. And that was the goal. Unfortunately, people from both sides, the day of, they bowed out. So we're taking potatoes and making lemonade. And that's the goal today. So we have some great people. We have John, we have Jim, and we have Thad. Thad's going to be moderating this. He's a great interviewer, and I'm really looking forward to how this all goes. And I'm really excited to get everybody's opinion and perspective, especially, you don't hear veterans' perspectives a lot. The big thing now is veteran podcasts, but it's usually like you'll hear some political stuff here and there, but it doesn't really hit those specific questions we're all looking for. So hopefully today we can answer those, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Joe. I was really excited actually to dive into the diverse perspectives of different veterans, but I was surprised and then also not so surprised that when I showed up today, half of the veterans just didn't show up from both sides. And it really led into one of my questions that I really wanted to ask everybody here was, why do you think we've created this space in the veteran community, why veterans just don't feel like they can show up to speak openly, politically, without fear of criticism?
No, I definitely agree. I think it's a mixture of a couple things. One, people don't want to lose their jobs, and I mean, as sad as it is to say, there's a lot of jobs, companies, stuff like that they have a political leaning. They don't really say that they have a political leaning, but everybody knows a lot of them do. And people are just scared to give that view. They're scared of getting fired, scared of losing a pension, whatever it might be. In my opinion, that's one side of it. And I think the other side is just, I come at things from a let me do me, you do you, whatever your batch of cookies is, do that. I don't care. Just don't take my ability away to not just do what I want, but be able to protect my family, stuff like that. That's my main goal in life. And when that starts getting infringed upon, or, if there's a better word for that, that's when I start to have a problem. And I kind of, it's one or two things. I either really make my voice heard, or I kind of keep my opinions to myself because my wife's in the background going, don't say that. Don't say that. So it's a mixture of things, but.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm John Lansford. I'm a United States Air Force veteran from 2006 to 2010. As it pertains to your question, Tad, I think the reason is veterans don't want to go places that they don't believe they'll be appreciated. We have learned that politics in this country has become radioactive. And so I think it just comes down to what you want to let into your life and what you would rather keep out. And so I think we've developed an overactive and hypervigilant sense of keeping, that potential conflict out of our lives.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, I'm Jim. I'm a U.S. veteran, United States Air Force, 1985. I joined right out of high school till 2001, and I'm just recently back in the fold of being a veteran myself, where for many years I didn't believe I was a veteran because I hadn't fought in a war I hadn't been shot at. So I'm glad to be accepted into this bigger picture, and I feel that social media has a lot to do with scaring people off. I come from a print media background in magazines, and there's a lot of anonymity there, whereas now your face is on the internet within hours, And that's not comfortable for a lot of people, especially older people like myself. So I feel that can scare some people away.
That makes a lot of sense. You guys bring up a lot of really great points with that. And as you introduced yourselves and your military background, I realized I did not introduce mine. But I was a Marine from 2001 to 2005. And so thank you guys for all of your service. And I'm excited to jump in. I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to come in and just help moderate and facilitate different questions. And so one of the first questions I wanted to ask was, as veterans, how do you feel each presidential candidate plans to support the needs of veterans, such as healthcare, mental health services, and job opportunities?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one first. To me, because I pay attention to this stuff, it feels pretty self-evident. One side has put the VA down at the border, doing healthcare for what they have termed newcomers to this country. I'm presently enrolled in Voc Rehab through the VA. I'm a digital film student. To me, it stands to reason that a filmmaker needs a camera. And yet the VA has lied to me 4 times in a row now, telling me yes and then telling me no. And then I hear, that they are the people at the border providing health care. And it is unconscionable to me that would be the case. And it is impossible for me to feel any other way than the things that should be helping me are in fact helping non-citizens, criminal aliens. So that's one side. The other side, goes and gets people from out of hostage situations. The other side cares about veterans deeply. Though he may have, had a stray comment against John McCain at one point in time, the man's commitment to veterans is otherwise unquestionable. And so it makes the choice pretty simple and straightforward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe that what's the best indicator is not these grandiose predictions of doom, but what has each of them done? It's right there. We've seen evidence of what they have done, and that's my best path of what's going to happen in the future. That's how I can look at it.
If I had to, just to piggyback off what you were saying with the people coming in the country illegally and stuff like that, like I completely understand where people are coming from. If I was born in another country that sucked, like, America's the best. I don't blame anybody for wanting to come to America. We have our faults 100%. Anybody that lives in America knows that, because we have a lot of people that are willing to complain about it, which we need that. We need people from both sides. We need somebody that's saying that, we need to get rid of the police. And then we need somebody on this side that's saying we need to get more police. And we need those different spectrums of political beliefs so that we can kind of keep somewhat balanced. Imagine our hands are out, our left and our right hands. It's going to help keep us balanced to steer America in the right direction. And I think, for me, just piggybacking off of what you were saying with the illegal migrants and taking away benefits that should be left more to veterans and people that are using those benefits and paying for those benefits with our taxpayer money, I think the more strain on that system makes it harder for people, like you were saying, trying to get cameras through Voc Rehab. Like these are programs a lot of veterans don't even know about, and even if they do find out about it, it's like you show up and you're like, okay, so I'm going into filming, where's my camera? And they're like, oh, well, unfortunately, or yeah, we're gonna get you the camera, and then it never happens, kind of thing, because maybe there's not enough money for Voc Rehab in that area. Because I know with the VA specifically in specific areas, it's hard for if we don't have enough veterans going to the VA and finding out what benefits are available to them, they're not going to allocate that money to that VA. Think of it like ammo at the end of a fiscal year when we're going to the range. Hey guys, we got to shoot all the ammo, and if we don't, we got to burn it all in the burn pit. Like, we have all seen that happen, but it's that's how government works. If at the end of the year they're like, oh, well, you didn't use 100,000 of the dollars we sent you guys, guess you guys don't need it next year. So it's something that definitely affects each individual veteran, no matter what program they're going to, and I think that's a big issue that needs to be tightened up on.
And that actually brings up a thought that I had, and you hit the nail on the head. That I've talked to a local VA provider. He just helps veterans get services, get the resources that they need. And he said one of the biggest problems is not that they don't have the resources, is that every time veterans don't show up to get the resources, they take more away. And every year it cuts back, more so because, not saying that any other policies aren't doing it, but it's more so because veterans aren't showing up, just like your great example of, we got to use this ammo, or next year they're not going to give us ammo.
That has been the best example that I've given people, to where it rings true and they're, oh, okay, that makes more sense. The way you put it, okay, I guess I'll go to the VA. Because trying to get veterans to go to the VA, not just to get a rating or whatever, it's like pulling teeth, especially with Marines. You guys are like, I don't know what it is, but trying to get a Marine to go to the VA is like, I don't need that. Why do I need? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not now. Maybe 20 years down the road you might need it, or you never know. So it's good to know what's available to you, just in case. And yeah.
And that actually, because you said earlier, Jim, that you didn't consider yourself a veteran for some time.
Yes, sir.
And so were you actually using services from the VA for some time?
I absolutely did not use services. I had a very bad view of what the VA service could supply through an uncle I had helped through in the 80s and 90s. I would take him in to the VA in California, and it was in a very sad state. It was like taking your dog to the pound. You didn't want to do it, but that was the only choice. And so I actually was married for a number of years, had great medical insurance, and then 2 years ago ended up with a hiatal hernia and went to care without insurance and ended up with a $150,000 bill that I was stuck with. And friend said, you should check out the VA. I reluctantly did, and it was wonderful. It was a beautiful facility, great people, cared about what I had to say, where I'm addicted to it. I go to a counselor once a month. I've had medical checkups regularly, all the stuff I had not done for 15 years divorced without medical insurance. I'm now very supportive of any efforts the VA is making, because it's a very strong program.
Well, and I love that you had that experience. I've definitely, did you have something added to that? No. So I love that. I had the same experience. I really enjoy the care that I get, and not minimizing or saying other people don't get poor care.
No,
but
I don't believe that.
Right now, I just know there's veterans that are listening, and I just want to make a plug of what
They
message.
need to go in. They need
Okay.
to take another shot at it. If they've had a bad experience, try again.
All right. Well, thank
Or
you.
heard bad things. Don't believe all that. Give it a shot.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I just thought it came full circle into what you had shared with your experience getting out. And just jumping back into the conversations, back to politics and not so much VA healthcare, which also is a piece of it. In your view, and I would love to hear from both candidates that your opinion, how does each candidate's approach to national security align with the safety and interest of the United States?
Again, I'll start on the left. I feel like for the left, it functionally doesn't exist. They don't believe that borders exist on a country. So how can there be national security when you don't even agree upon the paradigm of a nation state? Whereas when I look at the right, if for no other reason than they believe he's crazy, it brings about world peace, because his responses are often unpredictable and disproportionate to the inciting event. And there were 4 years of that as proof positive, from 2016 to 2020, that it actually created world peace. And so to me, it feels like one side doesn't even acknowledge that America should exist as a country, and the other, because he is so unpredictable, all the rogue nation states of this world fall in line.
Oh, and that's interesting. And recently, and I don't have it up sourced to quote, but isn't the current presidency on the left attempting to push through current border laws that are being held up? Or is that, what thoughts do you have on that?
Laws that include, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. They did it in California. It starts with an A.
I know exactly.
Yes, their border bill would absolve 30 million people of the crime of illegally entering this country. It would end all future presidential elections. Most presidential elections are decided by anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 votes in 6 or 7 counties around this country. You bring in 30 million people, functionally 10% of the population of the United States, there will never be a fair election again. And that's really at the root of my concern of it. They say it's a border security bill, but it is not. It is the death of the American electorate.
Yeah, I see it as there's one person that's more pro-American than I've ever seen in my lifetime. Just loves America far beyond physical limits, getting shot at, and another person that's you almost feel alien as an American, where it's like, hey, everybody come here, but you guys just sit on the side, you take nothing for a while because we're taking care of something else right now. It's like the kid in the corner. I used to be sent to my room quite often just for no reason other than they just wanted quiet. And that's what it seems like. We're being made to be quiet. Don't talk, don't speak. We're taking care of the stepbrother over here.
I couldn't agree more. To me, it comes back to a single axiom. There is no human right to an American life, and half of our political establishment in this country lives as if that is true.
I follow you.
And so getting outside of North America, do you believe each candidate has a clear and effective strategy for supporting U.S. allies and managing adversarial nations like China and Russia?
Again, hate to repeat, but look to the past. Look who was gaining world peace and had talked to everyone and seemed to be on a good foot with most other nations, and where the other currently they're not speaking to anyone and causing these wars to happen without even engaging, not trying to make peace, whereas the other was making peace all through his term. So I believe that, yes, definitely there's a difference there.
Yeah, jumping back to what Jim said, past performance is an indicator of future results. And the man is not even president-elect yet, and yet he's already fielding calls to bring peace to Ukraine. Zelensky came to this country and had a meeting with him, in private. So the man hasn't even done the thing yet, and yet the world is already trying to reorder itself around the peace that the world knows his administration will bring. Whereas on the other side, as Jim said, there's simply no communication. And when they do communicate, it's frankly pathetic. Them telling Iran don't, and then within 72 hours, Iran did. It shows you that the nations of this world, the rogue states, have no fear of a left administration because they know there's no teeth to it.
So I think the reason that I would agree with that is when I'm thinking of the Biden administration right now, I'm thinking there's no teeth, there's no muscle, there's no, like with Trump, there's a genuine fear that this guy might push a button. Like I think everybody, when they came out with that article talking about he's got the briefcase, he's got the, whatever, he's got his hand on the button kind of article, and everybody in the back of their head is like, yeah, he seems like the type of person that would, in my opinion, that would be ready to do that if need be. And I think that's what kept China, however he says it, in place, and the tariffs as well kept them in place because they know they make money off of us, and we make money off of them as well, and other countries, not just China. But when I think of the Biden administration right now, or the Kamala administration or Harris administration, they're one and the same in my perspective, because I feel like she's just going to do the exact same stuff that Biden would do. And what Biden's doing right now is like I have the feeling that he's asleep at the wheel. I do not think he can make it through anything like this, like a 60-minute interview, anything, even if it's scripted, and Harris is hanging on by a thread. And that's why I think it would be America would be in a safer place under that administration compared to a Harris administration, just because I feel like I would be getting the exact same thing that we're getting with Biden.
So your question was about foreign policy and foreign action. I feel like I kind of already answered that in one of my previous questions, talking about the perceived insanity that protects the world. So I'll take it in a slightly different direction. I think America should grow, and I think Trump should make good on what he talked about in his first term. He should purchase Greenland. And Mark Cuban, who is pretty desperate for a position in Trump's government, I think he could be county commissioner in Greenland.
Yeah, I believe Trump does need to go in and change that on it. But back to the other question, what he has, not just a fear from other countries, is a respect from other countries, because he is an alpha. I believe he can make deals, and he's used to being an alpha where he does get stuck in that political mud. And then he's trying to get these things done, but then they get clogged up. So that's my biggest difference is he actually will try to do things where I haven't seen them trying to do anything. And there's no agenda where it feels like he's lining his pockets, where he hasn't taken the salary. He hasn't made anything look like, if I make that deal, probably scrape some in. Where every deal they do, you go, well, they're scraping something in on that for themselves. Or you hear about all the different stock trading they have info to, and they question, where did they get all the money they now have they didn't have 4 years ago? And it's from inside knowledge. That's what I believe and feel wholeheartedly.
So I agree with that to an extent, though. I feel like a lot of people on both sides get stuck in that echo chamber where we're only hearing what our side is telling us, and we're being told that everything the other side is saying is BS and, yada, yada. And, well, this is why we couldn't get anything done. So to what you were saying a second ago, like I think you're completely correct, where both sides need to improve tremendously. And I think hopefully with whoever gets elected this time, something will actually get done compared to what we've had for the past, 4 or 5 years, especially with COVID. COVID just, like, that was the biggest wrench in everything. And I don't feel like we got a real layout of what the country could have been towards the end of that administration. And I think if it hadn't happened, it would have made the intro into the administration we're in right now a lot better or easier for them. Like, it's kind of like, just take your hands off the wheel. You don't have to really do anything if he was able to do all the things he said he was going to do. But I feel like he didn't, and wasn't able to, whatever it might be. But I definitely think hopefully with this next administration we'll do a lot better.
And it was a question we had talked about before we actually started recording, is one that you said you were curious to ask everybody about, was just, where do you consume your news? Where do you get your information from? Was one question as you're just making decisions like this and, building your own thought process. Where do you guys get your thoughts from?
I get mine from Tim Pool, Fleckus Talks, PBD Podcast, James O'Keefe. He's a really good investigative journalist. I'm trying to think the other guy's name, Matt Taibbi, and who else? There's so many good real investigative journalists, and then the podcasts like Tim Pool or Fleckus, they go in depth on these stories you don't even hear about, and it's like, holy crap! And a lot of these guys are coming from a libertarian angle, and I lean more towards that than anything. But like I said, we've been whittled down to where we only have 2 candidates to vote from, and it's kind of screwing us as the American people. We don't really have that much choice. It's, pick this or this, or your vote won't really count, kind of thing. So most of the information I get is, I'll also listen to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all the mainstream media stations, but that's just to take what they're saying and then see what these other guys are actually saying that aren't reading off a teleprompter, aren't reading off a script, and are giving their educated opinions on and perspectives on a lot of this stuff where it's like, I can resonate with that. So most of my stuff is off of YouTube because mainstream media just isn't getting it done. And you hear, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos where it's like, America is having an issue, and then like another news station is saying America is having an issue, and then it shows like 30 different news agencies saying the exact same thing. It's like, no, they're not saying the same thing.
Yes,
So
it's the same script.
Yeah, it was. This is a danger to our democracy, and every single one of them lines up at the same time. You want to talk about the most dystopian thing, potentially imaginable? It was right there. But to your question about where I get my news and media, we live in the greatest time for investigative, independent journalism ever. Not only do these independent journalists have access to stories that big networks can't get, they have the means to get that story out to people. And so I'll take this moment to give a big shout out to patriots.win, formerly reddit.com/thedonald. You guys are great. Thank you. And you are my primary news source, good and bad. They aggregate very much like Reddit does. So you get Ian Miles Chong, you get Tim Pool, you get Patrick Bet-David, those people who have really become the voices of independent thought.
I get it, strangely enough, from the comment section on Instagram. I will read everything, both sides, and then I read all the comments. There's 200 comments. I'll read them because there's more truth spoken in the comments than the actual item. And there's one guy, I'm really bad with names ever since past 50, but he only bashes the one side and allows no comments. You can't not fact check him, and he does not report the good from the one side, what they're doing well, but he only reports these outlandish negative reports on the other guy with no comments.
is it Cenk Uygur
It
on
might be
the Young
Glasses.
Turks?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no, I don't
thought
think
that's
that's him. But it's just, I'll look at him, and it's outlandish. Then there'll be another one that's showing some things that may be outlandish as well, but the comments seem to settle it one way or another. And there'll be some outlandish screaming from one side where they're screaming about something they are exactly doing. It's documented in other videos that what they're screaming about, they just said or they just did. And they say the best way to look at what someone's doing is what are they screaming about, because they're doing it. And it checks.
It feels like the war for the heart and soul of the American voter is being fought in the comments section.
Nice. And with that too, and you hit on it a little bit earlier with just the cost of living and where things are at. So diving into inflation, which is obviously it's hitting really hard right now. Would you say that candidates are actually offering up real solutions, or just using the economy as a talking point?
No, I think every side is using it as a talking point. I think no matter what side you're leaning towards, they're gonna say, "Oh no, they're doing it wrong. I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna fix everything. Don't worry about it." So that's why I look at what's the track record. What have we been looking at for the past 8 years? So that's really what I have to go off of, where I'm actually spending money. In the time that I've made the most money ever was under Trump's administration, not just because there was a lot of work, but because I felt like my taxes were lower, the gas prices felt lower, and that kind of drives my who I'm going to vote for. I don't really care what happens in Ukraine and Russia. I care to the extent that I don't want it to boil over into America. I don't want it to boil over into the UK or Canada or whatever, and these other countries. But like, I care about my family and their well-being and being able to support and take care of them. I don't care about. I feel like "don't care" is the wrong word, but like Israel and Palestine and all that, like they're going to keep arguing. They're going to keep fighting. It's religion. It's, they have been fighting for how many hundreds of thousands of years? Like it's never going to stop, no matter what we do, unless somebody just comes in and beats the hell out of all different sides and says, "Now everyone get along." Unless that happens, even then, they'd probably still it'd be more underground then, So I think no matter what, that kind of stuff's not going to change. So what I focus on is more what affects my family, and other Americans and veterans specifically, because like you were saying before, that's all I really care about right now, because we are a very small percentage of America. Less than 1% of Americans join the armed forces and to serve their country. It's sad that it's that small of a percentage. And I want to say it's less than 8% of veterans as a whole in the United States. You know, we make up less than 8% or 7% of that population. So we definitely need to take care of ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us. You know, I mean, I'm not saying sit back and complain all the time, but like, hey, we have a problem over here. We need to fix this and figure out how to fix it and actually do it. So.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'm from a middle class family. Prices are high. We get that. That's not the answer. Okay, so again, you just said reflect. I was riding high under Trump, had my business. The worst disaster when COVID hit, lost the business, lost my employees, lost everything. And then it just has continued, where I've struggled back and rebuilt to a semi-normal life now, but I still definitely want better. I've tasted, a comfortable life, and it's not happening. And there's no plan for it happening. So that's why I have to make that choice.
Yeah, as it pertains to the economy and inflation, there are things that you can do in a country to either ease inflation or exacerbate it. And lowering interest rates at a time like this exacerbates it. And it is so flagrantly misguided that it almost invites introspection onto why such a decision would be made. But based on what Jim was saying, I have to agree. The real X factor in the economy in America today is COVID. In October 2019, we had the greatest stock market in human history. And 3 months later, the floor falls out from under us. And so we never really came back from that. COVID introduced so much extra money into the circulating pool, with either stimulus checks or any number people defrauding the personal payroll system. Yes, and so that created so much extra money in this country. It is almost impossible that a loaf of bread couldn't start to cost more, because we quite literally did push a button and make $2 trillion appear from the ether. And until we address that abundance of supply and start adjusting our economic parameters to meet that, we're just going to keep making it worse. You can't lower interest rates at a time like this. And I'm the last person who wants there to be a high interest rate. But it's not indicative of the reality in which we live.
And so, diving into it, what do you think each candidate's going to do to impact inflation? And you mentioned interest rates. What do you think each candidate's going to do as it relates to inflation?
I believe one side is going to increase production in America again, where that was generating income to generate wealth to lower the deficit. Whereas the other one, let's just keep making money and we'll keep giving it away till there's such a debt that America owes that we will not recover. It will not come back. It's the worst we'll ever see. That's not a prediction, but I hate to think that's even a possibility.
Yeah, I totally hear that, Jim. In terms of easing inflation, again, there are those knobs on the economy, things like interest rates, or just even the approving of lenders. There are so many ways to attack this. Presently, none of them are being used, and so I would like to see Trump implement the tariffs that he's talked about to incentivize American production and actually start onshoring some of our own food production, so much of which is done by other countries. That would be a good start.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's more in the air of if it'll actually get done. I think that's the part we're all hoping for, and hoping whatever side we end up picking actually does what they're saying they're going to do. I'm more of the mind of like the tariffs because I mean, even the Biden administration kept some of the tariffs because of how much money it was making for America, which is good. I like them thinking of it more from that perspective of what's going to make life a little bit easier. Like, even though we're doing all this other stuff, what's going to make life a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, I think creating more jobs in America, doing more stuff ourselves, making microchips, making steel, doing all of that, I think is what's going to make America get a little bit stronger. I mean, look at Detroit and where they used to be and what we've done to places like Detroit by sending our companies, factories to Mexico or to China or, wherever, where it's either half-assed made or, I don't know if we'll have to cut that out, but, it's up to us to do something about it. We need to create more businesses. We need to incentivize people to create more businesses. I think putting, not tariffs, but it's called something else where you bring more influence on small businesses where it's like you cap them on how much they can make prices of bread, prices of whatever. I think instead of doing that, coming at it from an angle of, here, we'll cut you a tax break at the end of the year as a small business if you lower your prices, so that people can make it more affordable for them. I think that's the way to go about it. I don't know what side's actually going to do that because they might all be saying, we'll do this, we'll do that, but I think I don't know what we'll see at the end of the year, and I'm hoping it'll lean more towards more money in our pockets. So
I don't think either side disagrees with more money in our pockets. Like, we all want that. It's how are we going to go about getting that? And you mentioned the automobile industry, and I actually don't know this, but does anybody know where Tesla? Because you mentioned Musk being in Trump's.
Texas.
It's all made in Texas? Yeah. Everything's manufactured and built in Texas?
I don't know if everything, but I know a large majority of what they're building the shuttles and.
Yeah. So they have an assembly line still in Hawthorne, California. They don't have their headquarters there anymore. But most of what Tesla makes nowadays is made at the Gigafactory Austin. There are other Gigafactories around the world to serve their respective continents. There's a Gigafactory Berlin, a Gigafactory Shanghai. So he at least, for having these cars made, he's making them in the countries where they're being sold, and that's admirable.
Definitely. Well, back to what you brought up, that's what you would hope to see. There was another one that I was interested to ask. In the 2024 candidates, do you feel like they care more about protecting free speech, or are they only defending the speech that aligns with their agendas?
That is a very good question. I think it's a mixture of both because both sides are saying that they care about free speech. Both sides are saying that they care about your right to Second Amendment, stuff like that. The only way we can protect the First Amendment of free speech is with the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And us as Americans, not just veterans, but as Americans, we're giving up freedom for what we perceive as security. And anybody that's willing to give up freedom for security deserves neither. And I can't remember if it was Ben Franklin Ben Franklin, but that's a really good quote because it's true to the core. I think the left, if I was doing both sides, the left has more of a, hate speech. Okay, what's hate speech? And then the right is more of, well, you can say that, but we don't want to go too far. You can't talk smack about this or you can't talk smack about that. And you don't see it as much compared to the left. But I don't think it's just Democrats. I don't think it's just Republicans or conservatives or whatever. I think it's this small minority that's all the way to this side and small minority that's all the way to this side that are screaming at the top of their lungs and for some odd reason have cameras in front of them and news agencies that are backing them and stuff like that to be able to vocalize the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. Like, what is hate speech? Is hate speech me saying something that you don't like? Because I say a lot of stuff that people don't like. Does that mean I shouldn't have the right to say it? I posted my first ever video on TikTok for the podcast. First video within 5 minutes, political misinformation, snatched, taken off. If you get any more strikes, like, you're done. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, I even snipped a part that was like the most even keel. It was from my episode on Jubilee, the middle ground. Like, it was a little snippet from that, and it was the most like even keel. Hey guys, I just want us all to get along. Like, it was so even keel, and within 5 minutes, like, I don't know if it was somebody like just reporting it or what, but yeah, it got taken off. So like, that's the part I hate, is if I want to be able to speak my mind, whether you like it or not. I want to be able to speak my mind. And now going off the rails, call for action, screaming fire in a crowded building, stuff like that. Like, I get it, but Alex Jones, for example, he's a bag of cats. And there's 100 cats in there, and 95 of those cats have conspiracy theories that are 100% true. 5% of those cats are completely loony and crazy, and that is why he is taken off all the platforms, because they found those 5% of cats that were saying that the school shooting was an inside government cabal. Like, that's why he got shut down. But even then, it's like, you can't stop free speech, because no matter what, all he needs is a phone, and he can record a video and put it on somebody else's platform. So we just need to be careful how much freedom we give away for what we're perceiving as security.
So I'm really glad you brought up Alex Jones. I feel like the attacks on free speech in this country actually began with attacks on him. He was unpersoned during Trump's administration. And it was the first time that publicly we saw that these companies have the power to unperson an individual, to remove them from digital life. And there is only one side attacking in that way. And thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter, so there is at least one place on the internet where there is some semblance of actual balance. Because with the exception of that, most of the censorship is accomplished at the private company level. And thanks to people like Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger and the Twitter files, we know just how deeply ingrained the U.S. government was in Twitter specifically during the COVID years.
It's one side.
Yes.
The part that discouraged.
Yes, entirely against one side. And that makes it very, very difficult to ignore or pretend that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's not talked about enough, that the last 4 years, the whole cancel culture thing has just changed America quite a bit. And I wish that either side could present what they're doing and who they're running by selling the candidate. I mean, Coke doesn't go on and tell you for 5 minutes why Pepsi sucks. It's bitter, and it doesn't have as much sugar as we got, and they're going to probably blow up your house. And just like, and that's it. That's their pitch. No, they don't tell you why Coke's good, or just let it sell itself. It's just hate, and that's why that sucks. And sell yourself, and nobody's doing that. That would be, to me, a lot more honest, and I could believe it more.
I think that's kind of what pushed me more. As far as picking sides, I really do feel like I was more libertarian vibing than anything. And Coca-Cola in particular, like, what was it they were coming out with, like some DEI stuff where they're like, just try to not be white. Like, it was not just to pick on them, but like, it was that times 20 towards the beginning of these past 4 years. And I feel like it's just, I'm looking at everything that's going on, and I'm like, well, I know I'm not okay with this. So these guys are saying, no, this will never happen with us. So if there's anything pushing me either way, it's how things are being allowed, silencing people, telling people, you're not okay just because of the way you were born or whatever. Everybody, I think, can come to an agreement that racism's wrong, sexism is wrong. Like, it's wrong things are wrong. We just need to come together and agree on something so that we can move forward as a nation.
And as a very neutral moderator, I can't help but ask this question because you brought up a great point of Pepsi and Coke. And you said Coke's not just bashing Pepsi, they're talking about how good Coke is. And when asked about free speech, how well would you say you talked about how good your candidate's speech is or their protection of free speech? Or did you just bash the other side?
I think for me it was me bashing my side, saying, "Why are you guys doing this? What are you doing? You're like it used Mitt Romney and I think it was Mitt Romney and Obama at their debate. That was the most even keel, like, oh, yeah, how's it doing? You know, like shaking hands. Like you didn't really sense I hate you vibe or anything like that. Like you're basically Hitler. Like you didn't get that vibe at all with them. And I mean, no matter what they did politically or administration-wise, you got a regal vibe from both of them politically of, okay, this guy's very well-spoken. Well, on both sides. Both of them were very well-spoken. But, I mean, looking at politics then compared to now, it's such a change. And when it comes specifically to how I felt my side handled free speech and if I was able to voice my opinion about both sides. I think it was a mixture of both. Irritated with my side not doing everything I wanted them to do, and irritated with the other side feeling as if they're silencing people that don't agree with them, which I do not agree with. I think everybody, like I was saying, the whole point of this was to get everybody from each side to give their opinions, and I think that's what we need as Americans, and in America, we need to have conversations. No matter how difficult they are, you don't just silence a person you don't agree with. You have a discussion. Joe Rogan said that a million times, where it's like the only way to combat bad discussion is with good discussion. Like, tell them why they might be a little off on what they're thinking, or they could have some misinformation. You never know. So it's have that conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it comes back to two things, cancel culture and, hate speech laws. Only one side advocates for those two things, and those are the two modern cudgels used to silence any voice that they don't like. It feels like it really is just that simple. One side advocates for censorship, however direct or indirect, and the other does not.
Yeah, like I said, I don't believe there would need to be so much worry about censorship if you just spoke truly and eloquently and not just bashed. Like I said, I follow my news through comments, and I put a comment. I had never known of J.D. Vance before 2 months ago, and he made a speech, and I made a comment like, if people could just speak more eloquently and respectful like this person just did, I would listen longer and get more out of it. And maybe you see these that get 2-3 likes. It got 500 likes just because it just is the truth. I mean, you should be able to hear someone speak without them screaming about, that guy's a dipshit, and that's their speech. A public figure running for vice president, that guy, Elon Musk, he's a dipshit. Look at him running around, waving his hands. And I don't want to hear that and don't respect that as much as tell me why, again, you have some great points that will help correct this country's course.
I think that's why I'm always kind of stuck in the middle, is because you hear exactly that with Trump. You hear losers, they're idiots. I was security for CNN at a Trump rally, and the grossest feeling ever is when they started talking about mainstream media, and as I'm standing next to CNN, he goes, and the fake news, and then like they all turned around, boo, like just for like 5 minutes straight. So like you feel that on all sides, and if you go in neutral, like you really do feel that on both sides. It's just right now for the right, it's it's working in their favor to be 100% open. if you're 100% open on a lot of political issues, you know, it's hard to refute that, especially when it's, you know, the facts are all right here. The facts don't care about what side you're leaning on. So it's like right now it's benefiting the right. I think, you know, maybe down the road it might benefit the left. Like look, 10, 15 years ago, it was benefiting the left when it comes to, you know, war, or not 15 years ago, but like Vietnam. It was benefiting the left of war is bad, man. We gotta stop it, man. Like that's all you heard, flower power, like the whole 9 yards. So it's a big pendulum, and I just think right now it's swinging far right, and it's like I don't know where it's going to swing next, but I we'll see.
You can definitely see you mentioned past presidencies. How, I mean, I remember George Bush was like, he was crazy. Like he was crazy to people. And then it's just been, I mean, it just.
What do you think about me now? Like, you know, he's sitting in his garage laughing his ass off. Like, I'm crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And it's great. And I love also how you brought up just two interesting sides of it, because you mentioned being at a Trump rally and that piece of speech that is a form of bashing somebody for just sharing their opinion. So it's interesting to hear from both sides. I have time for one more question, and this is one that I would love to hear a response of what you like and dislike from both Trump as well as Harris. And I know we've mentioned Biden quite a bit, and I know it's from the framework of, past performance is going to be future performance in y'all's opinion, but currently it's Harris or it's Trump. And so I'd love to hear what you like and dislike about both of them. As you think about your time in the military, so I know for me as a veteran, the best leaders that I know were all people that I met in the military, some of the most fantastic leaders. And so as you assess both candidates, what would you say about both of their leadership qualities, as well as their decision-making ability under pressure?
Well, if you're going to go positive on both, I believe Kamala could work much better because she's got the likable factor. She gets people's attention in a positive manner without sometimes always bashing, and they follow her that way. But if she could tighten up on more policies and more knowledge on how to run the country, like I see her taking the excuse like, well, Joe's been running it, but I'm going to do all this stuff. Well, what's the stuff? Just kind of give me 10%. Just let me feel like you've got this plan to get things righted. That's how I see how she would make me feel better about her. I just don't feel like she knows enough or supports the military enough. It's the commander-in-chief of the military, and you have to be more probably hand-in-hand, and I don't see any interaction there with her in the military. Get in there and learn some facts. Ride on some ships. Go ride on a submarine. Go get in there with them. Go get in the dirt. That would help. Trump, if he could just watch his mouth, like you said, if he could not be on all the time on the arrogant, tip, he'd have it 100%. Where if he's at 80, it's 75, and then there's that part like people say Trump 24. I'll take him with the mean tweets and the orange face. Clean up that backyard, and then he's great 100%. So I think both can improve for sure. So that could meet in the middle with some other people if we wanted to talk about it that way. I would wish there would be more center line and how can we both agree on something. But it's at this moment so divided. I want to see some start turning towards some correction. I've seen more on one side trying to get some cohesion between both sides than the other. So let's see where it goes.
So I feel like it would be too easy for me to talk about the things that I don't like in Kamala Harris and the left side of this. And to be honest, I've probably already done that here. So let's go ahead and talk about something good, something that Biden was doing and she is continuing that I do like. Biden had an initiative to make community colleges state-funded. Anybody should be able to go to college, and community college is that great stepping stone up to it. And I think that's a great policy. If that had been paid for, my mother would have had a much easier time getting into college, and that is a qualitative good that would help this country. As far as Trump, things that he does well or things that he does poorly, I think maybe the poorest thing that he does is picking people for his cabinet rather. His first term was plagued, by people that he thought would accomplish his platform, and instead it feels like nearly 201, all the way up to the vice president. He had people throwing spanners in the works and gumming things up, slowing it down, letting 4 years pass so that they're just through this administration. So I think his people picker could be much, much better. And I'm hoping this time around his choice of J.D. Vance, I think, shows that he's looking differently now. He's looking for younger people, looking for military people. It bodes well, but like I said earlier, past performance is an indicator of future results, so we'll see what happens, should he win.
So yeah, no, I thought you were gonna take the one I was gonna say about Harris. One thing I love that Harris has done is Harris and Biden have done is push forward the PACT Act, which helps veterans. It's basically like a roster for veterans to hop onto, to where it keeps track of if you were around any burn pits or anything like that might give you any issues medically down the road. Think of Agent Orange, stuff like that. It helped. I mean, God only knows what kind of stuff veterans from Vietnam or any the earlier era are dealing with now medically. My grandfather ended up dying. He had MS, but I mean, God only knows what happened medically that might have made it worse or whatever. I think it's great that they put that forth. If there was something I didn't like about the Harris administration or Biden administration as one thing, it would be their stance on immigration. It feels like a open border kind of feeling, and I do not like that. I don't like people coming into the country, stopping at all these other countries to get here to then claim asylum. Then they get our tax dollars and take away from not just American people, but veterans. It slowly drains the giant meter of tax dollars that are already going to, I mean, how many billions have we sent to these other countries for Ukraine, Israel, whatever? We can't strain that even more by not paying attention to our backyard, our fence, like we need to pay attention more to that. And I think that's where they have messed up. When I think of, I should have switched that around and ended on a positive note. Kamala Harris and Biden with the PACT Act was amazing. They killed it. So now I'm ending on a positive note on their side. Now with Trump, I look at it more as, he negatively, he did not do well with the border. He could have done a lot better. Whether that's whatever excuses he has for that, it still wasn't fixed or taken care of. And he did some stuff to the border, helped it a little bit, but it did not fix the big issue that we were dealing with, illegal immigration. And the numbers were down, but they weren't zero. And it's like, oh, we only have some lead in our water, but it's like a really low percentage compared to whatever it should be. And it's like, it should be zero, so negatively, he did not do well with that. And his administration didn't. Now positively, he is doing better. It's like, you have a turd sandwich and a turd sandwich, but this one has like less turd in it. It's like, okay, I guess I'll pick that one. He did have lower numbers when it came to immigration, and I had more money in my pocket. I could afford things a lot easier, groceries, gas, etc., mortgage, insurance, and all that's gone up. So he did a lot better with that and did bad with the border, in my opinion. So, I think they can both, hopefully they can both turn it around, and no matter which side gets elected, make America great, but I really do hope no matter what happens, us as Americans can move forward, and us as veterans can help each other, do whatever we can to get veterans to go to the VA, get veterans to find out what benefits are out there, and hopefully we can jump from the rooftops, yell, scream, whatever, to make sure, hey, I know we have all these other issues going on, but do not forget about veterans. That is the main crux of this entire thing. I want that to be the main focus, is no matter what our opinions are, no matter what political opinions we have, veterans need to stick together, because nobody else is going to do this for us. We need to do it ourselves. So yeah, no. Thanks for being here. You guys have been amazing. I really appreciate it.
I thought I wrapped it up, but thank you for having this panel. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being our moderator and, well, question taker. So it's been a great experience. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you guys very much. This was really insightful, and I actually learned a few things that I didn't know. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate you inviting me on, and this has been a really great time.
Perfect. Thank you. And to everybody watching, I genuinely appreciate it. If you have any tips or anything, put it in the comments. Let us know. Send this to a veteran you might know, whoever, because like I said, the main goal is to let veterans know that there are other veterans that you can talk to, that you can meet up with, that you can, that can help you down whatever road and path you're going down, whether it's you need help with the VA, getting a rating, finding out benefits. Let them know that those options are out there, and that all they have to do is ask. And if it takes you putting a comment in and saying, can you help me? I will help you. That is my main goal. So yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody that helped make this possible. CRF Foundation, Combat Recovery Foundation is amazing. They have been great. Heart J Center, they're amazing. And I hope we can just keep stuff like this going. And to the Fort Collins Public Studio, they are amazing for letting this happen as well. So I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.